Hello and welcome back to Podcasting is Praxis. I'm David and my pronouns are he and him.
I'm James and my pronouns are they and them.
I'm Jamie, my pronouns are he and him.
I'm Rob and mine are also he and him.
I'm Alistair, my pronouns are also he and him.
Rob, you said you had
you
said you had a special plan for this.
I did. I mean, I've been meaning to get around to talking this for a while, but I want to talk about John Deere this evening.
Hey everyone.
Hello, Sinan.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not about tractors tonight at all.
I've been doing some reading.
We both have been doing some reading.
Now, hang on a minute here. No, I did not consent. No, you can't do this to me. No.
It's good to be back.
It's good
if
to
you
be
want
back.
some other good news, James, the idea that I've got a really hard out that I need to be away for and stuff, just to get you on time for a guest. That's all. We could be here for hours doing this tonight.
I'm just like...
David, you motherfucker.
David Robinson and fuck all you.
I've forgone a pizza for your sake right now. What the fuck?
Yeah, like...
You've forgone a pizza, but you did have Wotsits, so really, who can say if that's bad or not?
Yeah, who's to say?
I am dying under campaign stress right now, and I'm like, right, okay, we've got a simple recording about tractors tonight and the labour dispute there. That'll be fine. I'll just I know David's got a hard out. We need to start right on time, so I'll push things aside and we'll be okay. And I can allocate this chunk of time, like, an hour and a half solid, in, out, boom, done. And you drop Sinan on me?
Oh yes,
real? You motherfucker!
Oh yes. So we have a book to read.
That why the sync was so late, was it?
Yes, that's why there was such a wind-up time, because I had to give the signal to Sinan for how many seconds.
It was way too much coordination for me to realistically approve of it, but, it worked perfectly, so...
Alistair, Jamie, we don't have to take this.
I'm afraid you do.
Take this abuse.
You can go on strike. Industrial action.
I don't give a shit.
I'm gonna strike a pizza straight into the fucking oven right now, and that's how mad I am.
What are they going to read? The fucking Necronomicon? I don't give a fuck.
Almost. You're almost correct.
Near enough as is.
Jamie, just like, you can read from the book if you want. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Fine. Why don't you introduce the book that we're reading then?
Yeah, sure. Sinan, do you want me to, or do you want to?
You go ahead, because you've definitely written more notes about it than me, because I gave up like 50% of the way through just trying to
That's such a good sign.
Yeah, like I was like, I can't. To be clear, I'm a tiny bit ill, and I was like, I can't fucking cope with this shit and my job.
I battled my fucking way through the Rona to read this shit, so fuck you.
This is
look, here's the thing. I'm a baby
Robin
about
Sinan
being
going actual full sicko mode just to do insurgency on the Podcasting is Praxis podcast.
This is me looking out the window and seeing like plague of locusts, the sun being covered by a red sky, Sinan not being able to finish the cursed tome he's about to read to us. These are all signs and portents.
To be clear, I finished the book. I just didn't write notes on it. I gave up and just started bookmarking pages with this fucked up shit.
Yeah.
So...
See, now me, on the other hand, I wrote 19 pages.
Yeah, you did. I've seen the document and I was like, whoa. I feel underprepared for this.
What?
That is a record even for Rob.
Yeah. I mean, it was very necessary because I thought...
Do you know what? When I remember, you remember being at school and you say to someone, "Oh, how much did you write for that like piece of homework or whatever?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, I wrote like 4 pages," and you're like, "Oh, what?" That's how I feel right fucking now.
Yeah, I'm into the biscuits. If we're breaking all the rules tonight, like, let's go.
You have no more Wotsits.
I mean, look, this is my last recording before I fuck off on holiday, so like, A, I couldn't leave you, with a talk about tractors, though we may do that in a future episode. So consider this my parting shot. And B, Jamie, yes, you are allowed to bring in biscuits since it's the last day.
Is this when you say parting shot? Is this you like you're doing a crime then leaving the country before you can face repercussions for it? Is that
Rob is crop dusting us with a terrible book
Rob knows fine well that this podcast only functions when we're like below a certain health level. With psychic damage applied. So if Rob does this, he gets to fuck off for 6 weeks and the podcast can continue.
Okay. So Rob is inflicting the scarlet rot on us to do damage over time and is then just noping out of the boss room.
Yes,
sure.
exactly.
You know what?
Exactly.
I'm glad we managed to find a way that you would be able to parse that. Yes.
Well, I mean, speaking of
what does any of that mean?
Speaking of the Scarlet Rot, shall I introduce tonight's book reading? Because I thought we need now more than ever, like, we try to stay out of the culture war stuff, but I figure that tonight we needed to read something really thought-provoking and interesting from a man who's really with it and on the times.
Oh, no.
So Sid and I have read Ben Elton's Identity Crisis.
I have to confess, I didn't know who Ben Elton was. I assumed it was a bald white guy, and it turned out I was right. So
It's pretty close.
yeah, like I've got an instinct for these things. It turns out.
I can remember when Ben Elton was the counterculture. That's how old I am.
Yeah, I mean, if you think if you're wondering who Ben Elton is, he did stuff for like Blackadder, I think, and some other things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Blackadder, The Young Ones, that sort of shit.
Yeah,
and then the Queen musical and the Thin Blue Line.
Thin Blue Line, yeah.
Yeah. So what's this book about?
Book.
That's a good question because the plot was difficult to follow in amongst a lot of complaining.
Book.
I've read a couple of his novels.
Have you really?
I was a teenager and I was drunk at a fucking really shit house party, and as it was winding down, there were like Ben Elton novels on the bookshelf, and I was like, didn't know Ben Elton had written novels, so I sat and read them while I was coming down at like 4 a.m.
That's probably the only time I would tolerate reading this again, to be honest.
He's not a good writer.
No, he's not.
No, he's really not.
He's really not.
I feel like busting out a Ben Elton novel is a great way to clear out a house party that's winding down. Much like breaking out a fucking acoustic guitar or some shit. It's just like, yeah, now this shit's over. Let's all go home, everybody.
So yeah, essentially Ben Elton has written a scorching comedy novel, essentially about. I mean, the book's called Identity Crisis. So it's all about.
I have to time out here. Wait, it was a comedy novel? Are you sure about that?
I mean, I think the Telegraph called it very funny, as did the Times. So that's how you know. That's the arbiters of comedy.
Oh, so I misunderstood this. I thought this was serious. Completely misunderstood what this was about because there's no jokes in it.
Well, there are a lot of jokes if you are an out-of-touch white man and good friend of history's greatest monster, Stephen Fry. So there is that. Essentially, nominally, it is about the book opens with a murder, proceeds from there. It's set in a dystopian Britain where there are referendums going on and people are very upset about identities and genders in particular, and it's all very high comedy. Is
this pronouns did Brexit? Yeah, the novel.
Yes, near enough as is.
That's pretty much it. Yeah.
I mean, let me give you. If you want a thesis summary, let me read you a little bit. This is from, I don't know, somewhere later in the book. Mick's right about that, Janine admitted. One of the bake-off judges has just tweeted she needs police protection because she marked down a popular hazelnut meringue roulade.
Damn, what shocking stuff.
Sounds good. I want a roulade now.
Is it just me? Is a roulade sound like a fucking ferry ride? Fuck's sake. Fate ride.
Yeah, I agree 100%. It does sound like that.
Also, I'll be honest, I don't even know what that is.
It's quite like a ferry go round, I hear.
Yeah, that's as much as you're getting now.
I'll rename the chat.
A ferry go round is what you do in support of the NHS, I believe. So very briefly, let me give you a cast of characters. There is Detective Chief Inspector Michael Matlock. Yes.
Okay. What was that?
Matlock.
Yeah. Let me read you his description from the book itself. Detective Inspector Michael Matlock, the craggy-faced 50-something, still lean, still sharp, still rock and roll. People said he was a bit
I've
like...
still got it, baby!
Exactly. People said he was a bit like The Edge from U2, but that was probably only because he...
Oh, not the Edge from WWE.
Yeah, 2 different edges, to be clear. Neither of which you should cut yourself up.
Fucking hell.
Double-edged sword of types of guy.
I mean, throughout the book, he does keep referring to, like, cool music of his era, and none of the young whippersnappers who work for him understand him. Like, he keeps referencing the Smiths, and they just look at him like he's a cunt. And I'm just like, yeah, all right.
We used to listen to the Smiths, which was the style at the time.
I'm trying to think what there was. I remember seeing. My mum was watching some sitcom. It might have been Birds of a Feather.
Mm-hmm.
And they like 2 of the characters like introduced their teenage like fucking like I don't know if it was children or nephews or some shit. And this lad and lass immediately started talking about like fucking who their favorite guitarist was. And this was like in this must have been like the late 90s. I saw this, and they immediately like these 2 fucking like school children. Their favorite guitarists were Slash and The Edge.
Oh my god!
Oh, wow.
So let me read you just to make sure you sympathize with is Detective Michael Matlock. Let me read you another snip. This is about his past. This is just so you know where, and he's. I want to stress this is just a character. This is not the voice of Ben Elton at all. There's a very distinct difference between these 2. Mm-hmm. When Detective Matlock was young, back in the 80s, he'd been pretty politically motivated, anti-establishment even. Mm-hmm. He joined the police because he thought it would be a good base for having a stab at politics. Even after he decided he liked being a copper... No, I haven't even. Even after he decided he liked being a copper, he still considered himself a bit of a radical. As a young constable, policing...
Yeah, I mean, that's not... Those 2 are not mutually exclusive things.
Yeah, it's true. But...
As a young constable, policing the poll tax riot had been a conflicting experience for him. Because he basically agreed with the protesters. But now... Now, exclamation mark, things had gone so far to the right that the status quo had to be defended, exclamation mark.
I'm just picturing a guy at the poll tax riots with like a, you know what I mean, a riot shield and a baton, but a shirt that says music band.
I was just thinking that being a young radical and being in the police are really not incompatible. The problem is that it's young radical on the right wing end of the spectrum tends to fucking overlap.
It's the anti-establishment end of it, just anti-establishment. But I joined the police to get into politics. Like, yeah, that's the most anti-establishment thing I can fucking think of. Cracking, well done.
Yeah. The second main character is Malika Rajput, who is a very, again, much like the last book we read with Sinan, is a very sexy Middle Eastern woman. This time...
This keeps happening.
She is a genius coder working for a company called Communication Sandwich, but much more later.
Shirt coming soon.
Right. When Malika had first begun to demonstrate her extraordinary mathematical powers, her mother and father had worried it might lead to her turning out dowdy and bookish, but she'd grown into a glamorous young woman, hair and makeup always perfect, stylish...
Good to know that she's hot and horny. Great. Yeah. Cool. So it's... What's her OnlyFans?
She is also a massive fucking Tory, by the way, but the good kind. Like...
The hot one?
Yes.
Dead?
Right.
Yeah, dead. That's what I was going to say.
It's a ghost story, actually, everyone. I forgot to mention that bit.
Bald white cis men be normal challenge 2022. Fucking hell.
Difficulty impossible, I'm afraid.
There's also Haley, who is a no-nonsense modern wave producer on Love Island, which
I
is still
genuinely
running.
thought you said no nonce there for a second.
No nonsense is going to be relevant later.
This character is not a nonce, I say in the first line as I introduce him.
As I introduced my author insert, this character not a nonce. Not going to diddle your kids.
Well, I like to put not a nonce on my CV just so everyone's absolutely clear.
Right, so in the last, I don't even know if she counts as a main character, but I'm naming her anyway because she's so annoying, is we have Kate, the gender-sensitive pathologist, who hangs around in the morgue and constantly checks Matlock's pronouns.
I love the corollary to that being gender insensitive.
No, gender-sensitive. She's very like...
No, but like...
Yeah.
Matlock is not with the times, and Kate the pathologist is constantly around to make sure his pronouns are in tip-top shape.
Guys, can I get hazard pay for this as the only nonsense person on the fucking...
No, sorry. No, we don't have a mechanism for that. You can introduce it at the next co-op meeting.
Great.
Right, so essentially the book opens in the most exciting and dramatic way as things can possibly do, and that is with a detective inspector doing a press conference about a murder that's just happened. He gets it wrong because this is essentially, the book is very sensitive and people constantly keep misunderstanding the good-hearted Mr. Matlock because he doesn't get his verbiage right, essentially. So he says... He says the woman who was murdered
Rob, are you trying to say to me that the plot of this book is that the plot would have been easily resolved if everyone wasn't taking so much offence at this softly spoken man getting fucking genders wrong or whatever?
That and hashtags, yes.
Yeah, a lot of hashtags. Also, I want to draw attention to this line. You just had to admit you were going bald, which I think the author might have to do. Because Jesus fucking Christ.
Matlock essentially says something like, the woman was in the wrong place at the wrong time, which is then either put into or taken out of context, depending on your flavor, to mean that he means that women are not allowed to be out anywhere, and he gets a massive stick of shit for it on the television. And then on Twitter, of course, because it's all about the hashtags, because the Met and the Met commissioners specifically are in this book completely guided by hashtags on Twitter, as they definitely are in life right now.
What is funny though is that if that same sort of accusation had been levelled at politicians and journalists, then he would not be very fucking far off the mark, because we know how fucking broken brain the social media, specifically Twitter, has made those people. But the fucking cops, okay. Yeah, sure. Why not just have like a fucking the fucking state violence arm of the government just obey hashtags? Yeah, fuck it. Why not?
Right. So we then introduced to Malika, who works, as I said, for a company called Communication Sandwich, which I'm sure is very funny to somebody somewhere. And she is explaining to her mother her job, because obviously the people reading this book don't understand algorithms, so that has to be explained through a conversation. And essentially the way she explains it, and the company name is, algorithms are the filling in the sandwiches where the two slices of bread are the problem and the solution.
What?
God, I forgot about that line. I erased that from my memory. Jesus.
This man has never seen a PDF in his life.
All this man's PDFs are upside down.
It's not even a good fucking analogy. Like, who has two different types of bread on the same sandwich?
I mean, there is a toast sandwich, David.
Do you know what actually he is? That kind of bald old British guy that like a toast sandwich. He's like, yes, that's the thing. The children should have more of these.
It's Mark at a peep show.
Yeah.
So one slice for main and one for dessert.
That's it.
Fuck.
You cracked it.
Yeah. So and she is working now. She's working on algorithms, but she's working on political campaigning. Hint, hint. And she's working on activating voters with a specific profile. Let me read you their profile. My algorithm looks for clues. With men, I'd be looking for someone who's a bit nostalgic and retro, loves a curry but also enjoys old school English food, maybe has a bit of a war and history thing, buys books on Churchill, plays historical battle games online, nostalgic for the music of his youth, that sort of thing. Not really a real racist, but someone who's just feeling a bit out of place. Someone who might respond to dog whistle posts hinting at the disappearance of English culture.
I've got news for what that is. A racist.
I was actually going to say a fucking Paradox game enthusiast, but yeah.
Excuse me. Excuse me.
It's the same thing, really.
No, that's just basically confirmed to us that Ben Elton absolutely plays Hearts of Iron 4, but only as very specific nations.
Ben Elton, face me in this Hearts of Iron dojo, you coward.
So I'd like to see him square up to the fucking Politburo.
Yes.
So then we get into like some scene setting where like people are getting very upset because a very strongly feminist sort of revisionist historian is now claiming that there were women and minorities at which battle? At the Battle of Edington in 878, and claimed that King Alfred was actually a girl, which upsets both Matlock and also a guy behind his computer screen who then does very angry posts. With the hashtag #ProudMeninists, and that proceeds to go viral, big time viral.
So can we talk about the guy's name?
Yeah, we can definitely.
Wotan Orc Slayer.
What? Yeah,
yeah.
Because this is it's Britain in the 21st century, so like not only is his real name not really relevant, spoiler alert, he later dies, and in the morgue, like Kate, the correct pathologist, calls him Wotan because that's how he would prefer to be named. You see, it's funny like that.
I will just say Wotan definitely has a fucking Odal tattoo.
Oh yeah,
like,
yes.
There's no way a guy calling himself like Old English for Odin is not done that.
So then we're introduced to the other main plot strand, apart from the murder, of course, and that is the England Out campaign, because in this fun, alternate, whack universe, England is doing a referendum whether or not it wants to remain part of the United Kingdom instead of leaving.
Oh, fuck, yes.
I've long supported this, actually, as an official policy.
Yeah,
Like,
out of the UK and into the sea.
I have to say, this is preceded by a truly sparkling conversation in the car where Matlock calls anal sex wild and kinky, and he thinks that porn has desensitized 2 generations, but his sidekick, Sadly Clegg, is a lesbian, so she doesn't do anal, but his other sidekick, Barry Taylor, is just embarrassed by the conversation. It's really good. It's riveting
there's
stuff.
an Officer Baz, I feel like we should mention Officer Baz.
Is a lesbian that doesn't do anal, like, man, this is written by a hell of a cis white guy. I cannot describe a number of lesbian friends I know who are all about the butt stuff, so, like, sure dude, whatever.
So yeah, like I said, this is the bit where the English independence thing gets introduced, where the female PM, who is definitely not Theresa May, tries to assuage the right wing in her party, but it's going very badly. Because the Bunter and 3 other heavyweights have lent their support to the England Out campaign. Their names are, and see who you can work out who they are just from the names, Bunter Jolly, Guppy Toad, and Plantagenet Greased Hog.
What?
Oh, for fuck's sake, Rob!
Who do you reckon they are, though?
Boris Johnson, Michael Gove, and fucking Tweedle fucking idiot. What's his name?
Jacob Rees-Mogg. Yeah, there you go.
Just do a fucking spoonerism. Just
yeah.
It's a time tried method. Like we know that
make
works.
a Reese jog.
So yeah, like I have to remind you, they're still in the car, and all we've done is a press conference so far. But then they
did the press conference in the car.
Yes.
Yeah, it was a drive-in press conference.
Drive-by press conference.
If only.
So there's like a truly like half-wit discussion about the nature of referendums and whether you can leave any political decisions up to the mob, according to Inspector Matlock.
A woke mob. Actually, that is what this book is about, to be fair.
That is exactly.
This is like FBP, the novel, isn't it?
It is, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Let me quote you again, little line. The Germans ban referendums in their constitution, Matlock said. Do you know why? Because Hitler found them a useful tool.
Famously, that was the only thing stopping him from becoming powerful. We know this.
Yeah, he was never appointed chancellor by anyone. He was appointed by referendum. No president of Germany ever appointed him chancellor. That's how that worked.
And this is how Rob's ended up actually broadcasting this from the Reichskommissariat of Switzerland.
Exactly, yeah.
So all I could think of when you said that is, do you hear that, Nicola? Do you hear that, you little Hitler? Wanting your referendum? Just fucking hell.
It is very funny to me that to a man, the fucking, as Jamie points out, FBP-brained idiot just absolutely detests the idea of democracy in all forms.
Yeah.
It is very funny.
No. Not all forms. A second referendum is fine.
Yeah, a referendum to vote on the thing that was already voted on. Yep.
I mean, their soul is they hate anyone other than them and those who serve their interests having power. That's it. The rest of it is just all gymnastics. Either gymnastics to hide it from themselves, or rhetorical gymnastics to hide it from you.
I love to save scum democracy.
Well, I mean, you joke, right? But there was this whole movement of can't we just go back to how it was right before the referendum?
Yeah,
right,
2012.
It was like a genuine
2012.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
When England was good and Britain was good.
And there were definitely no riots the year before.
No.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, there were the London independence riots. That definitely happened. I remember that.
Does the book actually have that in it?
No, sadly it does not.
That would have been fucking incredible.
Right, so we get another sparkling interlude that generates another hashtag that goes inexplicably viral. Hashtag don't book beds from bigots. That's a very good hashtag, which naturally...
This guy doesn't understand how hashtags work.
No, he does not.
This is the thing, I couldn't follow this plot because, one, the chapters are short, and two, every other chapter is a new fucking hashtag.
Yes.
I mean, he absolutely understands FBP hashtags, though.
Yeah.
If he'd only wrote this book a little bit later, then he could have just had each hashtag, for each chapter, just quite simple to follow by being hashtag Johnson out 16, hashtag Johnson out 17.
Yeah.
Right, so we switch perspective back again to Malika, the sexy and exotic computer programmer. She discovers that communication sandwich, I am going to be saying that for a while, that communication sandwich is working for England Out, ! Run by Tommy Spoon and Xavier Aaron. I'm going to leave you to guess who those are.
Oh, fuck off. Right, anyway, yeah, carry on.
And we meet her boss, Julian Carter. And she's got a bit of a crush on him. Julian Carter was a bit of a Hugh Grant type with a dash of Bill Nighy, very attractive in his slightly disheveled way. His glasses look NHS black plastic, but from the 60s, but they were, of course, eye-wateringly expensive, super hip Calvin Kleins. And it turns out that Communication Sandwich and Malika are behind hashtag Proud Meninists, so they are the ones generating all the content through bots. And it turns out they're not above using illegal data sourcing and gathering, and they have access to all these computers and Facebook accounts and bots. Oh no.
Did Russia do it?
Oh, god damn it. Maybe. Who's to say?
Let's find out during the course of this exciting novel.
No, I'm pretty confident saying Russia did it. Just going to take the rest of the night off, to be honest.
What's the extremely tedious fucking name that they give Vladimir Putin in this?
Oh, he's still called Vladimir Putin.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
But so. Excuse me?
But Russia's actually called the Soviet Union, so it all balances out.
Yeah, it balances out.
Vladimir doesn't have standing to sue you in London for libel, so
that's literally what it is.
Yeah.
Do you know what this is reminding me of that.
He's not
bit
just a
in,
shit novelist; he's an abject fucking coward as well.
Yes.
This has reminded me of the fucking end of the third Has Fallen film, where Morgan Freeman is in amongst all the fucking world leaders in the UN.
Oh yeah.
It's just like, yeah, like fucking yeah, why not? What? Just some of them are real, some of them are like fake world leaders, whatever. Yeah, sure.
Some of them have the disembodied hand of Donald Trump holding them.
At this point, we're like, I don't know, about 50% into the plot, and I have to remind you the detectives are still in the car. And they're talking about Love Island now. The reason why we're...
What are they listening to on the stereo in the car?
They're listening to the radio because they have to... Yeah, LBC, essentially. They have to listen to something to argue about it so it can become plot relevant later on.
Uh-huh.
Oh, I love that.
I mean, at least this has been an accurate reflection of what cops do. So
it
does have that going for it.
I love to be such a good writer that, like, when I'm writing a novel, I have to use that trick that the screenwriters use where they have a TV on in the background explaining something that's plot relevant because you can't, like, fucking, like, just write out about it in the fucking, like, book. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Absolute fucking dipshit, like.
Jamie, you're not allowed. You've got to show, not tell. You're not allowed to do exposition in your book, right? That's what that means, right? That's what every bad novelist thinks it means, right?
Right. So they're talking about Love Island now, and Love Island is like the one thing that still everybody in the UK watches. That's like the water cooler television. So the pro-Remain England campaign decides to make its logo match Love Island because then they'll hitch a ride on their popularity and win the referendum.
To be entirely fair, this is exactly as fucking shit as the real Remain campaign. Like, he has actually pretty much nailed one of the major problems with them.
This may be the only like realistic thing in it is that their descriptions of the Remain campaign make them out as the imbeciles they so clearly were.
Yeah. Like,
well, that's okay because politically they failed, therefore they're useless and deserve to be like, fucked on. Essentially, that's how this works.
Right, so we arrive in the...
Is Jeremy Corbyn in this?
Oh, yeah, he's meant... I mean, like, to be fair, there's a description of the leader of the opposition.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I can read the passage because I highlighted it, and I'm like, the leader of the opposition was tying himself in knots to explain that his party's referendum policy was that England should remain part of the UK while not being too fervent about it. Now, let me make this absolutely clear, the hapless leader burbled. We totally believe in the United Kingdom, but that does not mean we do not respect the absolutely the aspirations of self-determination felt so strongly in all parts of our great nation. I mean, that would actually make sense for he clearly means this to be something bad, but that actually makes sense. Because it would be insane to be like, actually, all of your political desires are invalid and scream at them for 2-3 years, because that went great in real life.
2 or 3 years, yeah.
I mean, the job of opposition and the job of leadership in full is just to say Scotland and Wales get fucked, right? That's how it works, yeah?
Yeah, that's what my video on Britain abolition is going to say at the end, basically. So
fantastic. Look forward to it.
Yeah.
Just sitting telling different parts of the UK to fuck off.
It might end up being that, but I have to be nice to some parts of the UK because I might interview people from them. So
Cornwall get fucked, Wales get fucked, Scotland get fucked. Just like him going through it.
Right, we're almost
Scotland get fucked.
We are almost 20% into this book, and the detectives have just gotten out of the car.
Hey!
Yeah.
They did it.
And we arrive at the morgue, wherein young modern whippersnapper Kate the pathologist, in a hilarious bit, calls the corpse a survivor rather than a victim, because the word victim is disempowering, and she's correct with the wording. You see the fun there?
Oh, fuck off.
Do you know what it is, though? As dreadful as this is, one of the fucking Ben Elton novels I read as a kid, well, as a teenager, had a disabled character who was almost exclusively referred to with an ableist slur, but it was fine because he didn't mind.
Oh,
so, this is not going to be the worst Ben Elton novel I've ever heard of.
It's also not the worst Ben Elton bit, because following this right after, there's an extended discussion about the nature and the meaning of consent, whether or not anal sex can ever be rape, yay or nay. I won't read it up.
Excuse me?
What?
Yeah, I don't even. Yeah. It's too.
I'm not
horrible.
I'm not even gonna approach that one because it's fucking horrible.
Like,
yeah.
Are they genuinely arguing about like? Sorry, whether anal sex can ever be rape.
No, whether or not it can actually ever give full... It's something to do with consent. I blacked this passage out of my brain because I couldn't fucking handle it.
Yeah, that's going to be some old fucking sodomy law type shit.
Yeah, there you go. This only becomes more relevant when it turns out that the victim, and this is the stunning plot twist to end the chapter, that the victim is trans.
Yeah.
Okay.
There it is.
I'm out.
There it fucking is.
It was fun. Have a good one, guys. Enjoy the rest of the evening. See you later.
Oh, dear.
Yeah. All right.
No, they'll be back. They're back.
I would have understood if you cut at this point, but so we're back to another person who I won't bother introducing because they end up dying later. And
spoilers.
Jesus. We get to develop another plot line where he's playing Samuel Pepys, if you know who he is. Who's essentially, I think he's 17th century. He wrote a diary, which is essentially the only description of London we have, in which he also specifically and particularly writes about how he likes to feel up his serving mates in a very pleasant way. His performance is interrupted by the same radical historian who made King Alfred a woman, because she now says that Pepys is a rapist and the show shouldn't be done. Now, Pepys, by all modern standards, was a rapist, so I don't know. Make of that what you will, but that's that bit of plot. I won't go too much into it.
I feel like the title of the chapter is important here.
Oh yeah,
go on.
The title of the chapter is "They'll Make Flirting Illegal Next."
These days.
Yeah.
It really is staggering that when you reach a certain level of fame in the UK, columnists have this as well, and so do like a load of other comedians. That you can just write any old shit. I mean, I joke about our podcast being the podcast where we just come on and air our personal beefs, but these fuckers actually make
insane
living, insane amounts of money just saying. And one more thing, I don't like all these pronouns that they're going on about now. It's
right. So there's another incredibly tedious repeat of the previous chapter, essentially, where Matlock is no longer allowed to say that the victim being transsexual is interesting or case relevant, because then the pronoun correct pathologist starts going after him for using the wrong words. And, using the word woman where he shouldn't. You can paint this picture by yourself. I don't need to do this for you. Matlock sucked hard on at his sweet. Jesus, why did everything have to be so tricky these days? It was a minefield. Got it like a cigarette. And you don't have to think that in itself is a feature of interest, he asked. So, you're not allowed to say that anything's interesting anymore, because in this universe, everybody's genuinely deathly afraid of a hashtag going up around them, because that will destroy them in an instant.
Okay. Has anyone tried to cancel Ings?
They keep trying, but they keep hitching their horse to Love Island and then some other bits that keep collecting.
Why don't they just do a hashtag on Twitter, though? Because that seems to fix everything, or make things worse. Who's to say?
Yeah, no one knows.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, so essentially Matlock is then called back to Scotland Yard because they want to reopen Operation U-Tree, but about Samuel Pepys, the guy from the 18th century. Because...
Fuck off.
Because the Met... What? Yeah. The
Met got owned online and therefore has to do whatever the mob tells them.
Exactly.
That's how it works. In this world, we would be running the country. I'm not even kidding. We would be able to decide the course of the country.
Every time the Met gets ratioed, they have to release one person that they've imprisoned.
That's right. That's the law now in real life. So, listeners, go ratio the Met.
Sinan getting stopped by the police, whipping out his phone and just holding up a tweet with just the hashtag symbol there as a warning.
Yeah.
Just flashing a badge that just says "This You" and the police just
authorized poster. That'd actually be a really funny badge.
You merch idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we get, there's another bit in the Love Island studio where one of the contestants tweets hashtag not okay because she got a kiss that she perceived as being against her will, and that hashtag not okay is also being boosted, and everybody's now talking about whether or not kissing without consent is actually cool and banter and the way the English should do it, and then the
What?
yeah,
the way the English should do it.
Because, like, Team England out is using it as, like, look, it's just banter and, you know, kissing people, you know, it's just bants, and that's what England's about.
Yeah, I remember that stage of the Brexit campaign where, like, Nigel Farage was giving his opinion on literally every single fucking thing in life, and that's what the campaign was really about.
Yeah. Meanwhile, another very interesting plot development in the studio, Haley, our fearless producer, let me just read a little bit just to get a bit more of this good writing. Haley snapped. She'd always hated how so many white private school kids in the media spoke in a sort of grime-influenced Jaffacan, but now it was...
Oh, fuck off!
Christ.
This is the whitest man alive. He is the white man from which every other white man is hewn, unfortunately.
I'm just getting angry at this. That's the sad thing. It's like, it's not even funny to me.
I constantly fucking say that I am a default settings motherfucker. But like, holy shit, this guy. What the fuck?
This guy, he's one of those like comedians where he was like, oh, he was edgy and like fucking countercultural in the 80s, and then Thatcher left office and he just didn't know what to do with himself. Exactly. And it was like, I guess I'll write musicals with Andrew Lloyd Webber now. Do you know what I mean?
He also composed a song, I think, for George Bush II's inauguration.
Yes. Yes, he did.
God, I did not know that.
Yeah, he did, yeah. He was challenged on it, and rather than him say, I think, what was it? It was along the lines of, it wasn't about celebrating George Bush, it was about celebrating the President of the United States.
This is the President of the United States.
All presidents matter.
Yes.
And you can't see me, but I'm saluting the flag while making a huge jerk-off motion here.
Yeah, I mean, look, David, it's not about voting Keir Starmer, it's about celebrating Labour.
Oh my god! I saw that beef today. I had to steer well clear of it because otherwise I would never have logged off today.
With a real black person in the room, a white employee trying to sound cool talking black might lay herself open to a charge of cultural appropriation for which the company, the enabler, might be liable.
There's a lot of problems in there. Okay.
Yeah. That is a lot to unpack in such a short. This is the depleted uranium rounds of like fucking compressed issues you're firing at us here, Rob, because this is dense. Motherfucker.
Yeah.
But we'll speed run any %.
All right, swiftly speeding back to Detective Matlock, who's managed to again do a press conference, be in a car, be insulting to most people in the universe in a morgue, and is now back at HQ because, you know, this is a detective novel.
He's an efficient guy, really. Yeah. That's the thing I actually admire about the character. Very efficient at offending as many people as possible.
His online heat, his hashtag has died down because hashtag not okay, hashtag remember them, and hashtag don't book beds from bigots have taken his place in like the Twitter sphere now.
Do you know what feels like a bit of an undercurrent here? As though like Ben Elton has a problem with things like the Me Too hashtag, which, granted, is not necessarily instrumental in rooting out all like misogyny within, you know, society, but like is at least something where women felt like they were able to say, this is one of the horrible things that's happened to me, and we are all like in this together as women in various industries. No, that is too far. Women have been given too much power. They must ban women and hashtags.
Have you considered that perhaps that's just a bit inconvenient?
So like there's again the Assistant Commissioner of the Met is under pressure to not let the Met's new feel-good profile be ruined by any suspicion that London's coppers considered the transsexual victim any different from any other victim. Again, that is the Met we know and love. A posting on
when was this released?
2019, James.
Oh. Does he refer to trans people as transsexual every single fucking time?
Most of the time, yes. But except when he's making big comedy hours out of pronouns like they and z and
he does neopronouns, yeah.
Can I check, does the term transgender get used by other characters?
Yes, but none of them in a complimentary way, let's put it mildly.
Yeah. It is not right. It is not said in the normal way.
So is he basically he uses the word transsexual when just freely throughout the book, and then uses transgender in a mocking way, right?
Not completely like Matlock, who is just generally Matlock is perceived as a good guy who wants to do right, but kind of fumbles the pronouns, and just in the simple fumbling gets immediately condemned by the hysterical young generations who only tweet and look at their phone instead of listening to the Smiths and U2.
So does anyone say it's transgender? Does anyone actually say that?
I don't remember. I don't think so.
I'll have a quick.
Because I'm just trying to decide how much of a cunt the author is.
Okay, he's an enormous cunt.
Yeah, enormous cunt. I'm just trying to see. They do refer to the victim as a transgender in the narration.
Okay, that's not so bad then.
Yeah.
Wait, hang on. A transgender is it written as?
A transgender.
I actually,
Okay, fuck him. Right, carry on.
Yeah. A post on the Stonewall site had made grim reading for the Met and Janine from the press office and the media department. In the increasingly complex landscape of identity politics, the Home Office and the Met had made the wrong call. The police were now officially tone deaf and on the wrong side of history.
I mean, because they're with us.
They're just the cops, man.
Yeah, but this is bad now. Meanwhile, on the other side, Team England Out is using the death of a trans woman and identity politics against staying in, because it shows that the latte swillers and the transsexuals are coming for your English identity. And everybody knows this because of the hashtags. Yeah, lattes are a big thing.
Lattes are a whole fucking thing. Yeah.
Has my man ever stepped foot in a Costa? I mean, for fuck's sake.
Only frothy
Written
coffees.
by Owen
Only
Smith.
the best of... Yeah. So anyway, back we go to the communication sandwich office, where slimy boss Julian tells Malika to boost yet another hashtag about someone being murdered, and he hints that he knows about this hashtag through what he calls the fishing fleet. So now we're into the communication sandwich fishing fleet, which is a thing that...
Do you know what? I would love to see, deep sea trawler fisher tweets. Because that sounds like it'd be some of the coolest fucking shit ever.
But the reason they're calling it the fishing fleet, you get it, is because they're trolling. They're trolling in both sense of the word.
If you'd said to me that this book was written for people who say troll like troll, I would absolutely have fucking 100%. Yep.
That's exactly who it's written for. We'll get to the troll chapters soon.
Yeah. And in the end, Malika, our very sexy but also Tory swarthy foreigner, but also English person, decides to go on a dirty weekend in Switzerland with her boss Julian, something which obviously cannot possibly go wrong. Yeah.
They're completely fine.
This is the next chapter introduces a TERF who is clearly a send-up of Jermaine Greer. And the chapter is called To Z or Not To Z, and I will leave it there because it is too gross and essentially a point-for-point repeat of TERF ideology.
It is basically a manifesto.
Yeah.
For years, you have been asking, who is not Jermaine Greer? I am not Jermaine Greer.
Essentially, there's another fight, there's more hashtags, and in the meantime, the whole atmosphere in Britain gets more febrile and more people argue with each other over ID poll, and also we get a specific chapter where he describes a fictional victim of Harvey Weinstein and then proceeds to put words in her mouth, which is just really very classy.
Really classy move, yeah.
Yeah. Let's see where the fuck that we yeah. So the communication sandwich fishing fleet, again a thing, is stoking more and more outrage. Yet again, Detective Matlock noted that real people on real streets seemed pretty much the same as ever, while online the nation appeared to be degenerating into a viral tribal bloodbath. Who were these people? You see, we could all just get along if not for the tweets.
I'm surprised he didn't suggest ending online anonymity at this point, because that's usually their go-to for this.
Maybe he's just actually plumping for. Maybe he got owned so badly online that he actually just wants rid of Twitter, which is a position that I can almost fully agree with.
Yeah,
I honestly think that's it. I feel like this is a guy who can't tweet and is very mad about the fact he can't tweet.
He is quite very mad. Yes.
Yeah, he's pretty angry. He'll come out as we go through.
So yeah, let's. Sorry, 1 second. The dog is distracting me.
Hi, dog.
Hello to the dog.
Love the dog.
What's his actual name, by the way, Rob?
Ben Elton.
No, that would be I'm holding him for a moment. He needs some attention. No, his actual name is Gino. Hi, Gino. Hi. Hello, little boy. Hi. Anyway, switching back into the ravaging plotline.
So I'm looking at some of the fucking reviews this book has on Goodreads, and this 5-star review is fucking killing me. Congratulations, this another brilliant Ben Elton book. It has 10 murders. It is side-splitting funny. Set just before the 2017 referendum, this about political correctness gone insane. This about transgender sexual the new word. This a world gone mad. This a murder book with fucking twists. So twisted you go bananas to go get it. Don't be in wrong place at wrong time. This book was my top book capitalized of 2019.
One of us wrote that. I'm sorry, one of us wrote that. I can't.
I didn't know Charlie Kelly had a Goodreads account.
And so do. Yeah.
Right, I'm skipping past a whole bunch of plot because otherwise we'll be here forever and it's just not that interesting. But in the meantime, Sexy Malika and Boss Julian are on their way to Switzerland in a private plane. You're going to love Le Canard Charmant, he said. The foie gras is like melted butter. You don't mind cruel food, do you? Of course not. Your lot slit sheep's throats in the back garden, don't they? Kidding, obs,
what
but
the
really.
Fuck?
Kidding, obs. No, wait for the kicker. Kidding, obs, but really, the foie gras is sensational.
Oh. I love to drop a racism and then be like, but seriously though, the food's good.
This is what we call negging. What the fuck?
I simply would not be racist to someone I'm trying to bang. That's just. Well, that being said, I did once bang someone who did phrenology on me, so who's to say whether I'm an authority on that or not?
What, at the time, or?
No. Okay, I'm not going to tell. Maybe I will tell the story. So I'm in Manchester. No, they were from Manchester, and I was several drinks deep, and she was like, I think from your skull shape, you might be Turkish. Like one of the most incredible shots that I've ever seen anyone take. And
I think from your pickup line, you read The Spectator?
Yeah. She was like my age. This is the fucking scary thing. And bear in mind, I'm like 19 at the time. We go, see, the thing is, we go back to my place, and actually, before anything happened, she's like, wait a minute, you're Turkish. How come you can drink alcohol? I was like, don't worry about it. Don't worry about that right now.
Oh, incredible. Wow.
Yeah.
But that's an anecdote I don't think I've told before in full anyway.
So I've got to admit, Sinan, your origin story absolutely conforms to what I'd expect given your posting style.
It's a posting style forged from experience in the real world. It was too unbelievable. I had to retreat to the online because of stuff like that.
Were you sorry, I need to unpack this a little. Were you self-conscious about your skull shape for a while after that sort of thing? Did you catch yourself looking in the mirror going, what is a Turkish skull anyway?
I did do that a little bit. I was like, I wonder what that was. What gave me away?
Just taking a hammer to your skull to just kind of like, even
Reshape.
out a bit, make it harder.
Yeah.
But Malika is very turned on by these bands. So Julian is telling her how like the company is really more evil than she thought it was, but like because they just do social media stirring, and she did. She loved it. It was secret. It was wicked. It was almost industrial espionage. Julian had clearly enjoyed telling her this stuff, and she enjoyed being told. They were a team now, him in his perfect dinner jacket, her in a seriously fabulous dress, dining at the billionaire's restaurant, drinking champagne.
We love a good dinner jacket, don't we?
I do, but that's a different conversation. And drifting towards having sex in a suite that overlooked Lake Geneva. She was a freaking Bond girl. So, she's very empowered. She's a Tory empowered badass, sexy
girl boss.
Computer
girl boss hours.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm so tired of all these girl bosses.
Wait until the book that I'm going to read for when Rob comes back.
Yeah.
When are you back, Rob?
Right. So we're back on the car.
Dutchman killed in strange yachting accident.
I am. As long as I'm on this podcast, I am not getting into a small plane or a helicopter. That's one thing I know for sure.
Or a car.
Right. They sit. Time for another riveting conversation in the car between the Matlock's two assistants. They see the billboard that says English don't want to pay for Scottish healthcare anymore. I reckon it's true, said Taylor. True, 400 quid. Why would all those English MPs vote to spend that much extra on the Scots? It defies logic. It's a bribe so that the Scots vote for independence. But they do that anyway once a year, and they never get quite enough votes to get through with it. That's because they're canny
The yearly referendum. I love the idea that alongside the local elections, we have an annual referendum for whether Scotland's independent or not.
When this was written, there had been more work done to lay the foundations for a second Brexit referendum than there had been a second Scottish one. Fuck off.
I think you'll find, David, that he is an SNP voter, because he too believes that voting SNP is in fact the same as voting for Scottish independence.
Oh, well, I mean, that's functionally true.
Right. So in the meantime, canny Love Island producer reinvents Love Island, and instead of having only heterosexuals on it, they invite all the sexual preferences and gender preferences, etc.
They invite every sexual preference.
Yep.
Love Island is.
Okay, we won't interrogate that any further.
Love Island is dead. Haley shouted. Long live Rainbow Island.
I hate this bit.
So there's a whole conversation now between Bunter, Jolie, Guppy Toad, and the Greased Hog.
I hate these fucking names. Just fucking hell.
Greased Hog is such a good name. It should be a username on Twitter.
Yeah.
And apparently, Guppy Toad, i.e. Michael Gove, his line of having had enough of experts was expertly undone by the papers by having someone following him around for a morning and seeing that he went to a dentist and a doctor and a wine merchant, and then asking him, if you don't like experts, why did you go to a doctor and a wine merchant and not a guy on a bus? And that undid the whole argument. Then he was owned.
I want to slap the author.
Yeah, you should.
I really want to slap the author for this shit.
I have to read this, yeah. I want to slap him too.
And in the meantime, everyone's favourite TERF, who is not Jermaine Greer, but some other name I can't remember, kills herself, but Detective Matlock thinks that she didn't kill herself, that there's something else going on.
Oh, no.
Wait, what happened?
The TERF died.
Rest in piss.
This better not be going where I think it's going, Rob.
Well, the next bit is that evil company boss of Communication Sandwich Fishing Fleet, invites Sexy Malika to Russia to meet his boss. Da da da.
I wonder who the boss is. Who knows who the boss is? Really?
Lenin.
So at this point, nobody cares about the actual content of the England referendum anymore, and not about the very important Bank of England report, because they're all on their dang phones doing hashtags. Thought, Detective Matlock, the nation wasn't a nation, just a collection of tribes.
How's he spelling thought, though?
Blah blah. There's some other bit that's really incredibly boring and irrelevant. And at this point, that the popular radical historian who wanted to do the posthumous trial of Samuel Pepys, you remember the guy from the 18th century? Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's now also dead by murder.
And hate to be dead by murder.
Yeah. And another person also dead. It's incel Wotan the Orc Slayer, who is also dead now. And they're all dead in exactly the same way, with a hole beaten in the back of their head.
I mean, to be fair, Rob, if I was in a Ben Elton book, I would also kill myself.
There's a hole in the back of their head. Is Stalin behind this?
They may as well just zip themselves up into a suitcase at this point.
Yeah, I'm genuinely just thinking that if Alistair was in this book, he would have found a way to get that suitcase around himself and get that bullet in the back of his skull. This is dire. This is terrible.
I'm running around the streets of the too many gendered streets of London and just yelling at any passers-by, please, just end my life, shoot me in the head.
I realised I'm in a Ben Elton, but please.
Trapped in a Ben Elton novel, send help.
That would actually be a really good novel.
Alright, so the most realistic thing that's happened so far is that we're about 3/4 of the way of the book, and essentially the police investigation has consisted of talking to 2 people, going to the morgue, and having ineffectual bands in the car, and not solving anything. So I think that is the most realistic thing. The England In campaign is restarted yet again because 2 of the ministers in charge of the thing, who are only called by their first name because you're not allowed to use second names in Whitehall anymore because people are afraid that constitutes class privilege. This is also a funny gag that just keeps coming back. Because the marketing guy they've hired is really worried that they want to talk about economics and issues rather than celebrity endorsements. The marketing guy thinks that this is dumb. Once a government starts working on the assumption that content and substance were more important than image and branding, who would be next? The BBC? The NHS? Would all those strange multinationals with names no one had ever heard of stop making incomprehensibly enigmatic corporate adverts to play before the movie started on the aeroplane? This lunatic had to be stopped. Not just for the sake of his own lucrative contract, but for the sake of the millions of contracts like it. So, you see...
It is very fun how Ben Elton's conception of what constitutes, like, even in a joking way, constitutes class privilege is a surname and not, Yeah,
the actual class position,
this fully feels like a dipshit's choose-your-own idiocracy.
Novelization of idiocracy.
Yeah.
I would read the shit out of that. For fun, I would read that.
Yeah, but specifically made for total dipshits as like the absolute target, like on all levels, ironic and non-ironic.
So idiocracy then?
Yeah.
No, somehow worse. Like,
because it's
British
set in Britain.
idiocracy.
Because it's set in Britain. There you go. Yeah.
Piss Island idiocracy. There you go.
God, it's just dawned on me, if you did unironically just do idiocracy but convert it to Britain and do that as like a book, it would probably sell gangbusters.
Oh, absolutely.
Meanwhile, back in Russia, Malika was sorry not to see the Kremlin, but the Winter Palace certainly made up for it. She was a very romantic person. That's good writing when they just tell you directly what the character is as a person instead of describing it. She was a very romantic person.
You can't just say how people feel. That makes me feel angry.
Oh, that's such a good bit.
She was a very romantic person, also a conservative and a monarchist, so she found the imperial residence achingly evocative and sad. All she could think about when she and Julian visited were those poor imperial princesses, the last of the Romanov line, doomed daughters of a doomed Tsar, so pretty, so innocent, so naive, so vulnerable.
So shepherded into an underground bunker.
And shot by Hitler.
I'm saluting.
Correct. Well, I've no more of that shot by Hitler chat. That was confined to one episode, and
Hitler shot them though.
Yeah, that's canon now.
Yeah,
it's canon.
That is not canon. You know that is not fucking canon.
David, I'm sorry. It's pod law that Hitler shot the Romanovs.
It's not. Oh, no, it's not. I'm sorry.
It is.
You're not taking that away from me. No.
Yeah, we are.
No, you're not. You can't.
Sorry, the numbers are against you, David. The people have had a revolution.
Exactly.
The citizen Soviet has decided that Hitler shot the Romanovs.
I will absolutely dissolve that citizen Soviet from my position as Marshal of the Union of Soviets and fully fucking correct this matter in good time.
And then will you be off to represent the entire Red Army at the buffet?
Correct.
All right, so afterwards, Malika and Julian go to dinner with his Russian bosses. She doesn't like them because they're all loud gangsters and girlfriends are hookers with skimpy dresses on. And she's
the worst thing about fucking Russian oligarchs is that they're gauche.
Yeah. And she is actually quite upset that Julian and her are working on a referendum on behalf of Russia because that's just not right. This was different. A foreign power gleefully and shamelessly influencing the very internet marketing company employed by one side in an English election was go to prison stuff.
I love the specification of English election there to make it okay. Right? Because, if you do it to a South American nation, it's all fine. Yeah, but you don't do that to England.
Yeah, I was going to say, are we conveniently forgetting that maybe Russian elections were interfered in and what that may have led to? Who's to say?
Yeah, but Sinan, that only led to good things until we stopped thinking about it.
Yeah. Is this book going to lead to Juan Gallardo actually finally taking lead of a government?
No, but at the end of the dinner, Julian and the Russian thugs get very drunk, and he's no longer charming and roguish, but actually just a bog standard cunt. So before they adjourn to their suite, she thinks, broskies before hoskies, she thought. See? Comedy.
That genuinely made me want to die. Reading that.
Right, so more people get murdered, more people behind hashtags get murdered.
But I wish that was
not
me.
enough fucking people get murdered, in my opinion.
Is this anti-hashtag action?
I don't even know. Well,
what was that fucking terrible film where it's like if you used an emoji, you get killed by some guy with a weird face? Because that feels like what this is alluding towards for some reason, except the hashtags.
That was Harry Brown.
So she no longer is in love with her creepy boss because Communication Sandwich turns out to be an instrument of Russian espionage and covert propaganda. And by the way, that is being concealed from the people running the actual England out referendum because they are true believers, and it's very clearly stated that even the England out true believers would not feel good about working with Russia, and they might actually cancel the ad contract or whatever it is.
This is so far the funniest joke that he has managed to concoct.
It's the idea that these people would be uncomfortable working with Russia.
Yeah, so she immediately assumes that he's going to have her killed.
Well, I mean, they did give fucking Chris, what's his name, food poisoning, didn't they?
Let's see, blah blah.
Chris Bryant, that's the fucker.
Oh yeah, they did.
Yeah.
Big plate full of hammers. Who could have possibly seen this coming?
Yeah, meanwhile, back on Love Island, it turns out that it's really boring to have Generation Rainbow on the show rather than just cis people, because what it turns out is that if you put people of a bunch of different genders and sexual identities in the same room or island, whatever it is, they don't fight each other, they just talk a bunch and hang out.
What a terrible future where people can just get on with each other. That sounds fucking terrible.
Yeah, but it's not good television. So what?
But Ben Elton spent years learning how to operate in a society where men essentially prey on women, but in a sort of in a fun way. And now you're telling him he's going to have to learn to talk to people instead. I mean, come on, he's an old man.
He didn't go to school for that.
You can't figure that out at his age. Just leave him alone.
Ben Elton is completely incapable of conceiving of like a funny joke that like has anything to do with a trans person that isn't just outright offensive, like that guy who said that he knows trans women are women because he can't make them come either. Like,
yeah. So what Haley, the producer, does is she creates tensions within the group, essentially to make all the non-cis people hate the cis couple. And that creates tension, and that drives up the viewership again. So what she's doing inside a small group is creating artificial divisions. You see, there's like a parallel going on here. You see what's happening? There's a little parallel. Do you see it? Did you catch it? That little parallel? Okay, good.
Yeah, it's like poetry, it rhymes, yeah.
No, sorry, I was busy pulling out my own toenails.
I'm going to be honest, if this was George Lucas, the names would be more creative.
Yes.
That's true.
Yeah, it is at that point.
The Greased Hog and Elan Sleaze-Bagano crossover.
I want to spend £5,000 and stay at a fucking Ben Elton themed hotel, an immersive Ben Elton themed hotel.
I think that's just a police station.
But then in another shocking twist, all the lights go out and all the plugs get pulled in the Love Island studio, and the only two heteros on the island are also murdered, and another guy gets murdered or commits suicide.
Frankly,
it's not clear.
Good. I'm glad.
Yeah.
It is at this point that like our brave detective Matlock is saying like it can't be a coincidence. All these so-called suicides and murders that happen in nearly exactly the same way. Surely this is not a coincidence, but everybody's like, well, that can't be true because they were not nice people. So I promise you we're closing up on the end of this thing. So there's a debate between Prime Minister definitely not May and Bunter definitely not Boris on the question of the referendum to whether or not England stays in, and because that vote's happening in a few days. And this, I'll read it to you because it's clearly put together as like a winning speech. Like everybody in the audience, even Prime Minister not May, is impressed by this Boris speech. And I'll just read you a little bit about it. And if I were not a white straight bloke, if I'd been born gay or black or in the body of a man with the soul of a woman, or even more plus size than I am, or vegan, or all those things together, then that is who I would be.
Oh, vegan? Mm-hmm. Fucking hell, man.
Can we add vegan to the LGBTQ? Because I feel like a V would be a good fit.
But what I would be proud to be is English, an identity that I can share not only with people who look like me, or have sex like me, or purchase the same cruelty-free product as me, or wear the same size clothes products as me, but with everybody, with all the different identities of this great and sceptred Albion, which is our collective home. Bunter Jolly was channeling his inner fucking statesman. He was harnessing the zeitgeist. He was making the zeitgeist his bitch.
Yeah, much like I am with this tedious novel.
God. John Romero will make your zeitgeist his bitch.
Have you ever considered that all those social material contradictions you have can actually be subsumed within the empty shell of nationalism? Makes you think.
Yeah.
I'm gonna strenuously debate Mr. Elton in the marketplace of ideas.
Oh my god! Oh my god! Wow! That is not fucking making it through the edit. Holy shit.
That'll just be for us.
Suddenly, and if by magic, Detective Matlock has managed to waste his whole department's budget, and instead of the three of them, there's now literally 100 guys doing CSI computer magic to see if they can spot whether or not the killer in all the murders and suicides is wearing the exact same jumper. Because if the killer's wearing the exact same jumper and hat, then we can identify him, and then it proves they're not suicides.
I was going to say, wasting the budget, that's one way to defund the police.
This sounds like Sherlock Holmes has had a stroke. What the fuck, like? Do you know what I mean?
You just know that Sherlock Holmes had a fucking Twitter account. That guy would be absolutely just seen off
Yeah. Oh, absolutely right. But I mean, what the fuck is if the jumper fits, you must acquit? Is that the fucking?
Well, convict.
So he blew his departmental budget. The team, which had so far basically been just him and his 2 sidekicks, was now 100 strong and equipped with as many computers. Their first task was to watch and watch again every single CCTV moment that had been recorded within 1,000 meters of all 10 deaths during the evening's blah-de-blah, and to note down and describe every single person who appeared.
He hasn't said it in there, but he basically alluded to going on the computer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I do
So
enjoy
is the murderer Noel Edmonds?
no, it's
an agent of Noel Edmonds.
There's a Noel Edmonds-y kind of stand-in person who's also murdered, whose plot I haven't described. It's too boring and long. But he also gets murdered because he is actually rapey, but pretends he's not and serves the woke bandwagon until he's kicked out for actually being a rapey person. But that doesn't really catch the world's attention because everybody else is looking at the fake news, not the real news.
Sinan, you said inside job there, but what you meant was inside blob.
No.
No, we're not profaning Blobby like that.
I recently had to explain Mr. Blobby to my partner who's not from the UK. And boy, was that a fucking difficult thing to approach.
Yeah.
Did you get the question, but why?
Several times. I showed her a picture. She was like, what the fuck is this? What's going on?
Yeah, but don't worry about it. None of this CSI shit is actually necessary because sexy hot computer programmer Malika, her conscience is torn in half, so she goes to her old school friend who is actually one of the police side characters, very handily, and she confesses to her in Soho House, the exclusive members club, because I think that's literally the only place Ben Elton knows about. So this is the confession. Malika leaned in once more. It was actually the Russians. It's been the Russians all along. Our Discord is their Discord. When Baines got murdered and the feminists started claiming that all men were murdered, 90% of the internet traffic on that was generated by us. But really, it was 90% Vladimir Putin. He was stirring the UK pot via a criminal gang who are paymasters to my boss, my boyfriend. When that weird homophobic Christian couple...
Yeah, it's called the fucking Tory party, you fucking cunt.
Come on, we know what this is, yeah. Like...
How's the weather in St. Petersburg?
I like that line about like our Discord, their Discord is our Discord. Imagine if like Vladimir Putin was on Discord. Do you know what I mean?
Vladimir Putin joining the marketplace of ideas to play on the Politburo streams.
Yeah, Vladimir, sorry, you still have to pay our Patreon first before you can get into our very exclusive Discord.
I mean, Rob, doesn't he effectively pay enough of our Patreon already to justify it? Right?
I know, but it's been so hard to get the fucking checks out of them.
When we started the Left Wing podcast, I was given all sorts of promises about fucking Russian dark money and Soros money, and I've not seen a fucking penny of it yet.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, President Xi, at least.
That's a man who pays on time.
Yeah,
that's true.
So like none of that computer work was necessary. They were just given the answers to the story just straight away. Because most of the online abuse wasn't actually from gay people at all. It was us. It was the Russians stirring up Middle England to righteous fury. So, England actually okay and cool with different identities. If only the wicked Russians and hashtags didn't exist, then England would be a great civilization.
So hang on, it's the FSB doing the murders, is that it?
Yes, the FSB is doing the murders.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Okay, that's not as bad as I thought it would be.
It wasn't angry gay people online, it was just two guys over to see a cathedral.
It wasn't the very obvious trope direction that this could have gone in.
Yeah, okay. It wasn't a J.K. Rowling novel.
Or like any horror film from the 60s
that's
and 70s.
Jamie's review on the Amazon Marketplace. 2 stars, it wasn't a J.K. Rowling novel. Robert Galbraith,
I like how that can be interpreted in 2 ways.
Right. So, at the end of the book, Malika tries to get Julian to confess on tape that he likes doing treason, while the police listens in.
I'm going to picture that as entirely just walking up to him with a fucking dictaphone and going, "Do you like doing treason?"
It is.
Please
how I'm
speak
gonna
into my
approach
big
people
hat.
now.
It is.
I'm going to start approaching people like that in real life.
Yeah, everyone knows the way you get people to confess to doing treasons is you start a podcast with them. That's like the way in to do it. Yeah, see, and the cop laughs at that. Fantastic.
All right, well, let me read you then a little bit of this very subtle interrogation by the very sexy, very intelligent computer programmer.
No, don't. We're nearly finished. Just rattle past it.
Are you sure? It's really good.
It's not, though, is it?
No, it's fucking terrible.
Yeah.
All right, for the sake of our listeners, I'll be kind and skittle past it. Essentially, like, Julian figures out, because she's very terrible at lying, that
She ran up to him with a dictaphone.
Yeah.
What she did was she startled him into confessing.
No,
she's standing there, and as she's speaking, he just glances up at the boom mic that's lowering
wearing that giant cowboy hat with the camera in it that Homer uses to try and fucking, like, rumble the cricket mart.
Now, it turns out that Julian knew that she'd betrayed him all along, and had called his Russian agents to kill her off. But the killers don't kill her; they only kill him. Why? Because, and this is just in the last chapter, it turns out they'd only killed Julian because Julian knew too much, and Malika was just following his orders. So, like, that's why they didn't kill her, because the FSB got specific instructions to only kill one person and not two. And you know what happens to? Mm-hmm.
I was going to say, famously, the FSB, very merciful in that way, would not definitely push a bit further.
Just fucking.
No.
It was a Friday. It was a Friday afternoon, and they were fucking clocking off soon. Do you know what I mean? It's like I'm not doing 2 extrajudicial murders when the paper literally only specifies one has to die. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I didn't pack enough plastic sheeting.
All right, fuck it, you do it. I'm staying in the car.
Bloody KSB union thugs not willing to do a little bit of overtime.
Well, they call it Soviet Union for a reason, right?
Yeah.
That's right. So let me, and that essentially ends the plot. So let me give you, what happened. Essentially, Malika gets to keep.
Oh yeah, if you'd like to actually explain what happened in this book, now's the time, because I still have a fucking clue.
There was a bunch of murders. There was a bunch of murders. And,
there was a bunch of posts.
It proved there was a bunch of murders and posts, and it proved that Brexit was a bad idea.
Oh,
That's
okay.
basically the gist of it,
right.
And also that things were best when Ben Elton was young, in fucking inverted commas, in the 80s. Do you know what I mean?
Mick Matlock retired from police work. He'd been intending to do a few more years, but changed his mind. The death of one of the many people in this book had done nothing to diminish the.
I hate when films end like this. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. If it's a true story, then by all means tell me what happened to fucking Richard Nixon or whatever after he fucking met Forrest Gump. That's that's relevant because that actually happened. But if it's you've just made up some fucking film about a bunch of shit that didn't happen, and then you go, oh, and then this guy was never seen again. It's like, well, why? Because the film was over? Do you know what I mean? Fucking.
He found himself tasked with pursuing the prosecution of Richard II, who in 1396 had married Isabella of Valois, who had been 6 at the time, and he thought, fuck it, and left. He is enjoying more time with his wife and trying to get his school punk band, brackets Sticky Zit, back together for a reunion gig.
This man loves naming things, terrible jokes, and that nobody gets but him.
Yeah.
I mean, those, glass houses, etc., but they are particularly shit.
England narrowly won the referendum, but the process of trying to disentangle the United Kingdom proved so long and so complicated, the sunlit uplands so elusive, that eventually everybody just quietly forgot about it, and Britain kept bumbling on.
Oops, how did that one work out, pal?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder how that went.
Well, he certainly owned those fictional characters. Do you know what I mean? That he invented.
Imagine writing an entire book to set up a slam dunk and then just whiffing it absolute last second.
Sam, and this is the last line of the book, Samuel Pepys, he of the 18th century, got 6 years and his name was entered in the sex offenders register. The end.
Ha 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 ha.
Scene off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Take that. take that.
That fucking, do you know what I mean? Owned fictional historians everywhere.
Yeah, take that, you diarist.
Better not come round Ben Elton's gaff again. He'll be at you.
Owned by facts and logic.
Yeah.
I'm disappointed in that novel. It needed more statues going in harbours.
It did, but then everything needs that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's Ben Elton's fine book. I'm sure you've all loved being part of it.
The 20-odd years since I last read any of his work hasn't fucking improved them any.
Yeah, so that's your podcast for this week. I hope you all feel
champion.
Feel entertained.
Mind how you go.
Was this worth it, Sinan? Was it worth it to do this?
Absolutely. I will never turn down any cursed book. Like,
yeah, and
well,
from
it's
now
worth
on,
it because now you can plug your shit, Sinan.
oh yeah, you should check out me and Jamie on Peace at Home podcast, where I melt people's brains about Turkey, and we have a very good bonus episode out as of recording, where I explained the time the president of Turkey sued someone for making a meme comparing him to Gollum. And the Turkish courts had to determine whether Gollum was good or bad.
Yeah.
It is a good podcast, folks. Please listen to it. 100 years in the making.
Yeah, literally 100 years in the making. Also, you can catch me on...
Gollum kills a lot of people, but he also helps a lot of people get to work on time, so it's impossible to say whether he's bad or good.
Yeah, I can't believe that the Turkish Constitutional Court actually published a judgment with that exact phrase in it. That's the
Why don't the Turks just take the eagles to work? I mean, Jesus Christ.
What is it, President Erdogan take the eagles to his palace? That's the question everyone's asking.
Is it Erdogan the grey or Erdogan the white is a question I've got.
I think he's the grey at the moment. He's doing his whole thing where he's trying to look big and important because he's got Ukraine and Russia negotiating in Turkey. So he's doing the thing where he's like, I'm very important and not at all a man who loses his shit at any small slight. Also, you can catch me on Twitch at twitch.tv/SKTheCrusader. It's youtube.com/c/SKTheCrusader. I just released a new video about moral panics, which, this book was not a thing that relates to that at all. But it almost did. If he'd gone the tropey way, it almost would have related to one of the more famous moral panics, but check out that video. And what else am I on? I guess I'm on Twitter, but,
do not go on Twitter.
Do not go on Twitter.com.
Yeah. Bad idea.
But if you are on there, just at the Sinan Kose. I'm the one with the long hair, and I'm probably going to be calling someone a cunt on there at some point. Probably right after this, actually.
To be totally honest, if in doubt, just read the timeline. You'll know.
Yeah. I mean, I'm definitely going to be calling someone a cunt right after this on Twitter.
Yeah. Or actually,
he's not on. I've looked.
Or better yet, don't call them a cunt, because you never know. You too might be the victim of a very sexy Pakistani lady and her Russian backers.
Yeah,
much to think about.
Oh, what a shame! Damn, my DMs are open. So
So as for us going forward, like Rob said, this is his last week here before he fucks off on a long holiday. After this fucking tonight.
You can't fire me. I quit.
Into the Atlantic.
So we will have a slightly reduced schedule coming up. We will be on for the next 4 weeks after this. You will still get your bonus episodes, so don't worry about that. And then we'll be taking a couple of weeks off where we'll maybe fill the gap a little bit with like a Black Thoughts. There might be a release of a premium episode possibly. We don't quite know yet, but in the meantime, the streams will continue until
morale improves.
So twitch.tv/PraxisCast for that, and for bonus episodes, of which we have many now, and more to come, like I said, over the next month, patreon.com/PraxisCast. So find us there. You get us on Twitter at PraxisCast, and then you can find the rest of us from that. And we'll see you again next week. See you soon, folks.
Bye.
Hold on, everyone. Bye.